if you could pick one thing that your midwife said to you after the fact that you wanted to hear and you think they should have said, what would it be?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess I'm sorry. And I'm sorry that I lied about your part in this. I mean, what Catherine said her midwife said to her, I think would have been incredibly healing for me, because my midwife was the opposite. She was like, the parents didn't want to transfer. The mother wasn't doing what I was saying. And she completely threw all the blame onto me. And that was not what happened at all. And I guess it still hurts me, because I'm like, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. And I feel so gaslit, because I'm like, I wish she would just say, no, you're right. You did want to transfer. And I told you were fine. And I didn't do my job. And I'm so sorry that your baby died because of me. Would be huge. And she told that huge story that came out. It was like 3 years ago. I don't even remember who did it, but it was a online article, and my story was part of it. And it was this big thing. And the lady who interviewed, she actually talked to my midwife, and apparently she talked to her when she was walking out of a court case for her daughter who had killed someone in a driving accident. Like, her daughter had killed somebody and it hadn't meant to. And she was like totally shook. And it was like the perfect time, I guess, because she probably wouldn't have even talked to her, but she was like, I feel like I have to talk to you. I've just went through this and I just understand, the watching all the stuff that she's going through, and it's processing it. And I just want you to tell her that I'm really sorry, and that everything she said is true. And that's what she passed, but she wouldn't even say it to my face. So this lady called me. She's like, do you want to know what she said? And I was like, I guess. And she told me it was partially healing, but it was also like, she told it through her. She didn't tell me, she couldn't be brave enough to tell me. I'm glad that she admits it, but she doesn't publicly all over the place. She proclaimed loud and clear that I was a liar. My baby died because of me. And then silently, privately, through another person, she tells me, sorry, no, you were telling the truth, is like, it feels like very anticlimactic and not enough.
I went through a similar thing, because mine is a complete denial of anything that she did wrong. And I was part of that big article too. And same thing. She had a whole nother story from what we told, what the doctors told, what other midwives in the community told. She had a whole nother version that didn't add up to anybody's story but her own story. She spent years saying, we refuse to go to the hospital, that kind of thing. And she's never admitted her fault, and she's never taken responsibility or accountability for any part of what happened in any way at all. Even if she would have said, I made a mistake, would have been better than like anything like at all. But instead, it's always been forced blame on me. It's always gone to me. It's never gone to anybody else. It's always been on me. So I think that would have changed probably a lot of things if she just had said that she was actually sorry and actually told the truth of like what happened. It didn't blame me, but actually said, like, when you ask if something was wrong, when you ask about, we're asking those questions, I should have just sent you. Like, I should have sent you, I should have listened to you and just sent you to the hospital. But instead, she's an egotistical narcissist that she'll never admit that stuff. To the day she dies, I'm sure she's going to be denying that she had any responsibility to anything that happened. And, but yeah, that would have changed things. I don't know if it would have healed anything, but I think it would have changed the way that I look at stuff. Let's just say,
when I hear you, Danielle, and I hear you, Liz, talk about what you were told, instead of, like, silence would have been better than what you were told, right? Like, how damaging, how insanely hurtful. I also think about, I think about empathy a lot. And I think about how I really have been thinking about the doctors that I've had, and, and my experiences. Like, my mom died because of negligence. And right now my dad is dealing with colon cancer, and I'm actually taking care of him here at home. And I just, spent 12 days in the hospital with him. And I was thinking about empathy. I actually have been praying for empathy daily, because I'm taking care of my dad, and I tend to be very tough on my dad. And I've been like really, truly praying that God just puts empathy in me so that I can care in the best way possible. The reality is that empathy is a gift. I really do think that not everybody is born with empathy. Like, I have two boys. One is more empathetic than the other. And I think that in order to be sorry, they need empathy. And I don't know that that's possible sometimes. But what is possible is the admittance of wrong. Like, the empathy and the I'm sorry, that's not really up to me. And if you don't have it in you to give, then, I don't know what to say about that. But admitting that you were wrong, I think in all our cases, I can't tell you that I've forgiven my midwife blank forgiveness. I don't know that that's been, but I think that almost daily I've been choosing to forgive her, right? Like as a choice that I'm making. I chose to not pursue her further. I got to the extent that I could get. I took her license away. There was nothing else that I could do. I took her to court, civil court, all of that was done. And that was, I tried to press criminal charges. That wasn't possible. One of the questions the attorney asked me when they were deposing me, the first question, he said, well, so, this happened this day. When did you file the lawsuit? And he's like, oh, I see. So, 4 weeks after, not that long. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I tried to press criminal charges before. That's the first thing I did. But what I was going to say about my midwife is, I think if she would have admitted that she was wrong, if she would have just said, I made a mistake, I made a mistake, I think it would have absolved me from having to do anything else. Like, if she would have just admitted that she was wrong, I don't know that I would have pursued everything I pursued as hard as I did, because I wouldn't have felt the burden of proving to her that she was wrong. Does that make sense? There was a burden to have to prove to her that she did wrong. That should have never been my job. Why are hospitals different? Because they have boards, and they sit down and look at every case. And there are questions that are asked about every wrongdoing, whether it goes anywhere or not, whether whatever happens or doesn't happen. At the end of the day, that's not on the burden of the family and the patient. And that, to me, is like a gift. To have to ask the questions and have to push, have to do all this while you're still grieving, and then have to deal with the fact that actually there is no justice. I think that's another one. Like, for me, that I took it to the fullest that I could. I got everything I could have gotten, I got. And I'll never forget that judge at that malpractice court. What she brought me into her chambers. I don't even ask me how this happened. I was in the middle of either take a settlement or continue court. My attorney costs were not going to be covered anymore. I was going to have to pay out of pocket. And my attorney brought me to see the judge. She wanted to see me. She presides over 95% of the malpractice cases. And she brought me into her chambers and she said, what do you want? And I said, justice. And she said, well, you won't get it. She said, there is no justice to be had. And I mean, which obviously it's a blow, it's a everything, but it made me stop my pursuit of something that was elusive. So I think if she would have admitted that she made a mistake, that would have, just the thought of that, the amount of healing that would have brought to me, the amount of healing that it would have brought to her. Because I'm not going to assume that she's in a good place, or that this is something that can be buried forever, and that she can just, I'm not going to assume that, because I think it comes to bite you in the butt many times over. So I think in a way, she would have admitted, I was wrong, Catherine. I made a mistake. Did she want my baby to die? No. Oh, no, they didn't want my baby to die. Like, honestly, they did not want my baby to die. But did they make mistakes that resulted in her death? Yes, big ones. And they were driving the car.